Who wants some RC dirt bike action? Because this is the Pro Moto-MX dirt bike from Losi, and it's the unicorn of all RCs right now, and today we're gonna test one out, see how it performs in different conditions, see how fast it is, and of course, we're gonna put it on the track. There aren't many motorcycles in the RC world, and there's never been one like the Pro Moto-MX dirt bike. This thing is quarter scale, it comes ready to run, and it comes with 2S LiPo brushless electronics. If you try 3S, you're gonna fry some electronics. Now we've beat on our bike pretty good, and we'll show you some of that wear here in a minute. But the first thing we noticed when we unboxed it, besides how big and awesome it looks, is its weight. It's almost 8 pounds, which is way heavier and more hefty than you think it would be. For instance, this is the Losi King Sling, and this is a 9.5 pound truck, and it's pretty big in RC terms, but it's not that much heavier than the Pro Moto. Now this is the Sky RC Super Rider RC motorcycle, and it's also quarter scale, it's a little smaller, and it's about 1 pound lighter than the Super Moto. Now one important thing about this is it really gives you an idea of how true to scale the Pro Moto is. One important thing about this is that the Super Rider, like a lot of RC motorcycles, puts a big old flywheel here in the back wheel to stabilize the bike. But on the Pro Moto, they did it a little bit different. There's a big flywheel spinning inside the chassis here where the engine would be, and it's perhaps one of the best aspects about the Pro Moto and the way that it performs.
It's hard to get it to move side to side.
Give it a twist, you can feel that flywheel.
Oh, whoa!
Whoa! Now we're not going to cover all the different features and specs on the bike because there's been so many videos on the Pro Moto already, and Losi made tons of videos going through the bike and everything about it, which you can check out on their YouTube channel. Instead, let me tell you the things that I like the most about the Pro Moto and the things that I don't like. Things that I really like: the spoked wheels. Because the flywheel stabilization is in the chassis on the Pro Moto and not the rear wheel, the Pro Moto is capable of having a proper multi-spoked off-road wheel on the front and the rear, and they look great. Most RC bikes use a one-piece 5 or 6 spoke design, but not on the Pro Moto. This bike would not be the same if it wasn't for these wheels. The front brake. There's a real mechanical front brake here, powered by a mini servo that pulls on a cable to close the brake calipers of a real metal disc. And that metal disc floats on the screws on the wheel. This system works and looks realistic, and it's freaking awesome. The rear suspension. It looks phenomenal. The swing arm has a realistic bend around the rear wheel. There's a pocket for the shock to drop in. There's shock leakage underneath it, and it all looks real proper. Even the rear sprocket has been accurately made with the machined out holes, and even the cut on the teeth looks like the real thing. There's a realistic rider on this bike. And I'm not just talking about the realistic helmet and goggles, the real cloth jersey and pants, or the motocross boots, but the actual size and proportion of the rider to the bike. His knees have a nice bend, the rider is leaning forward, it actually looks real. There's 3 different riding modes, each affecting the throttle power differently, controlled by the gyro. There's dirt mode, pavement mode, and wheelie mode. Now consider this: the gyro in the bike doesn't know the difference if you're riding up a jump face or if you're leaning back to pop a wheelie. In both cases, the rider in the bike is leaning back. So in dirt mode, it'll let you have control of the throttle power when leaning back to go up and over jump faces. And in wheelie mode, it will take control of the throttle power to maintain consistent wheelies. And then in pavement mode, it'll cut all power when you lean back to prevent wheelies. So that's the main difference between the 3 modes. It's all about the throttle control and the leaning of the bike going back, and it's pretty important to be using the correct mode for the terrain and type of driving or riding that you want to do. Is it driving? Is it riding? Am I driving, you're riding? Can the Pro Moto ride in gravel? Yes. Can it ride in grass? Yes. Can it ride on blacktop? Heck yeah, buddy. Can it ride on a dirt oval? Oh yeah. Can it ride on a track? HE double hockey stick, yes sir. The Pro Moto can ride in a lot of different terrains, but be warned, it rides like a real motorcycle, not a car. So if you're familiar with motorcycles and how they need to brake and turn, then you're gonna do all right. But if you don't have any motorcycle experience, just be patient and wait it out. Because if you expect to unbox this thing and go immediately put it on a track with jumps, well, good luck. To get a feel for the bike, you just want to put it on pavement, put it in pavement mode and drive it around patiently doing figure eights, getting a feel for how much brake you need, because you're going to need a lot of brake and a lot of braking distance, and just get a feel for how the bike leans. It's a very unique RC experience and you have to rewire your brain a little to master it. Now for us, once we got a hang of it here in this parking lot, we adjusted the Nerf bars, raising them up so you can lean the bike at a greater angle. And then we also turned up the gyro on the transmitter to allow it. These Nerf bars and the gyro knob on the transmitter need to work hand in hand. If you raise up the Nerf bars, you need to turn up the gyro knob. If you lower the Nerf bars back down, you need to back down the gyro knob. With the Nerf bars and the gyro turned up, the bike gives you its full lean angle for tighter cornering and more aggressive sliding around, especially on this slick blacktop surface. Since this bike is fast, like really fast, 42 miles an hour to be exact, it takes a lot of time to slow it down, and you can't slow down while turning. Bikes always need to have the brakes applied first, then you let off the brakes, and then you initiate your turn. Now in this gravel section, we drove in this after the blacktop, and the traction levels are a lot lower than the blacktop and the corner speed is way reduced compared to the blacktop. This is a good spot to lower down those Nerf bars and gyro and just have fun spitting rocks and roosts, and that's what we did. The bike handles this section impressively well though, better than I thought it would, and it looks pretty dang good doing it. Now here's some grass cut fairly short, and there's no shortage of traction here, and the bike will wheelie pretty easily in wheelie mode. The thing about this grass though is it's very resistant on that front tire, pushing on the tire, and it really reduces cornering performance. This would be another good spot to keep the Nerf bars and the gyro turned down. Now here's a baseball diamond of our local park, and I have to say, this was one of the best spots to drive the Pro Moto. It wasn't one of the best spots, it was the best spot that we drove at. This terrain is smooth, it's consistent, the dirt is fairly fine, it's like kitty litter. And the Pro Moto tires just hook up really well here and they spit out a really cool roost. This was definitely a spot to raise up the Nerf bars and the gyro because we could get a greater lean angle here and we had the traction to support it. You can see it just leans over well, drifting around the lot, whether we were on the gas or the brakes. This was absolutely awesome here to drive and watch it perform. Definitely my favorite. Now here's the parking lot of our local RC track, and it's pretty bumpy. There's some rocks, it's got hard pack sections, and there's some loose sections. And the bike is definitely showing us it prefers smooth terrain over the bumpy, but it still does pretty good. We have the Nerf bars and the gyro turned up, but they probably should have been down. The only issue here is when that front tire bounces up, if it hits a rock and bounces off the ground and loses contact, the bike does get a little bent out of shape and has a bit of a wobble from that flywheel spinning. That front tire really wants to stay connected to the ground. Now here's the last spots of our driving, the tracks. And we tried the dirt oval first, and it's pretty dang tough. A bit of it's user error because I wanted to go full speed here, but there's just not enough time to slow down before the turn. So you're on the gas very shortly before you're back on the brakes.
Oopsies!
And perhaps that's just like a real oval. I'm not an oval guy, but I gave it my best go. But I did struggle here a little bit. Keep it pinned. Now lastly, this is the big proper 8-scale track. This is an 8-scale track. It's big and gnarly. There's big jumps. There's the wall ride. It's not an easy track to get around. Even with an 8-scale buggy, it's kind of a struggle, especially the back section where gauging the depth perception in the lane is really tough. Now we gave it our best shot. We brought out 2 battery packs. That's all the practice that I had out here. And I think the outcome turned out a whole lot better than I imagined. Thankfully, we brought out a few guys. Thank you, Ed and Chris and Matt, for turn marshaling because it was super hot out there. And we couldn't have done it without them helping flip over the bike because there were a lot of bobbles along the way. One thing we noticed that really helped was turning down the Nerf bars and turning down the gyro. That helped us out a bit to give us a little extra support. The track is really hard packed. It would have been better had it been all nice and watered or just a little bit softer. It would also help to have a track without any lane piping because the lane pipes were a bit of an issue and they're hard to get over if you have a bobble or want to cut the lane. It's almost a guaranteed way to kind of crash and fall on your side. And on the track, if you fall on your side, it's a bit more difficult to get it going again on its own. But the more we drove it and the more laps that I put down, the easier and more familiar I got with the bike. Braking early in time to rotate around your turns is just super important. Setting yourself up for the tight 180 turns is pretty important as well, and a little tough if you don't have berms. And then clearing some of these jumps proved to be a little bit difficult, getting enough wheel speed because the rear tire just spun a lot coming out of some of these turns. But all in all, we did pretty good. There was a lot of crashes. There was this one spot over the big center jump where it was the first time I went for it, and the bike just didn't go over the lip properly, and it starts to lean forward, and then I stabbed the brakes to get it to rotate around, just trying to help it and protect it land back on the wheels. And it landed really hard on the front tire. You can see here in the slow-mo that it just kind of folds in the front end before it kind of topples over. And it did bend a couple of the front spokes just a little bit. But I hit that jump quite a few more times after that. I didn't need nearly as much speed as I first gave it a go at, and it worked out all right. The difficulty was just putting down one full lap without a mistake. I couldn't do it. I tried, but like I said, it was only 2 battery packs worth of practice in one day. Had we gone out there with more battery packs and more time to play, I think I could definitely do it.
This has been a very trying time with this bike on this track. The bike's awesome. The track is tough. These big jumps, the dry conditions, I think with different tires, maybe if the track was wet, it would hook up a little bit better. But I won't lie to you guys, this was not easy.
Can we have someone else try it?
You want to try?
Absolutely.
All right, come on up. All right, dude. Show us how it's done. All right, Ed.
Oh. Oh, it's not easy at all.
Give him some more time on the track, and I bet he'd get good. Things that I don't like. The rider has a bit of a bobblehead. If you notice in some of the clips, the head's just kind of bouncing around quite a bit. I didn't even notice it until somebody pointed it out, but now I can't stop seeing it. The head is probably flexible to help prevent it from breaking during a crash, but yeah. You can't backflip in any mode. The gyro will prevent it, but it'd be a lot cooler if it could. And third, and it's pretty nitpicky, but this plastic stand is flimsy, and I can't wait to see what sort of metal stands are gonna come down the road, along with all the other option parts and accessories. It's a pretty small list, because there's not a whole lot to dislike about this bike. Now for the issues that we had the front mechanical brake hang up on us once in the dirty, dusty parking lot of our track. The little lever on the bottom that the cable tugs on got stuck in the up position. Maybe our rock smacked it up. We're not really sure, but we just pulled it back down and it worked fine after that. The little rubber exhaust tip that goes on the exhaust of the back of the bike fell off. Not a big deal. Probably use some shoe glue and smush it back on there and it'll never fall off again. The bike overheated and thermaled on us once, and it was over 100 degrees that day. It's been really hot recently, so we don't fault the bike for that. We bent a few of the front spokes on the wheel. I'm pretty sure this happened when we took that header over the big jump on the track. That was really hard on that front tire and wheel. The spokes aren't bent that badly, and we've been using it like this without any problems. This is kind of an issue, but the battery recommended for this was out of stock, so we used this ProTech Tamiya pack that's got the rounded off cases and it's got a T-style connector on it. It fits in this battery compartment no problem, but we did have to make an IC5 to T-style connector, and that's the battery we ended up using. The last issue is more with the wear of the bike, the front fender, the rear fender, the number plate, and then the decals on those different locations have been scraped up quite a bit. The rear of the rider jersey has also gotten scraped up a bit. Some of the chrome on the exhaust can here has also come off a little bit. The rear tire's getting a bit bald too with the knobs down the center, but we've driven this tire way more on the street than in the dirt, so it's just bound to happen. Overall, this bike is amazing, guys, and I hope AMain gets them in soon. I know there's a lot of customers waiting to get their orders and pre-orders fulfilled, but until then, if you want to check out the Moto-MX, go check out our links down below. And if you want more RC videos, you can check these out. Guys, I'm Brett from AMain Hobbies. Thanks for watching.